There's an art trend going about at the moment. I don't know if you've seen it. It's AI art. Look up AI art generator and find Dream by Wombo. You don't have to download an app for this one. You can just start playing. And to play, you type in words and ask the artificial intelligence to create art for you. Well, it's completely addictive, for me anyway. I don't think I'll ever get bored of hitting that create button. Well, I was in the middle of drawing a Kelpie, so I thought I'd let AI draw one too. A Kelpie is a... It's so noisy out there today. Wish they'd be quiet. There was a storm going on outside a moment ago and it was really pretty. It would have been nice if I'd have captured the audio then, but no. Thunder. Did you hear that thunder? I wish people weren't chatting outside. Then you could listen to the thunder. Wheesht. Stop chitty-chatting. Go home. A Kelpie is a mythical Scottish creature, a horse which can take on the form of a human. It's said that if you get too close, you stick to it and it absorbs you. I got completely excited by the surreal images the AI produced, and like a giddy child with a new toy, I had to... Be quiet! Fuck. Oh, man. Enough. The storm's brewing and the world's gone noisy outside. The seagulls are crazy. Every now and then there's thunder. But there's so much chitty-chat. They're just waiting to be rained on. Struck by lightning. Who knows? So noisy. One day I'll make good content and YouTube will pay me a fortune and I'll be able to move to the country where there's no chitty-chat. Ah, the dream. As usual, while I draw, I'll read a little fanfic for you. This one's called The Memories of the Kelpie, a mythology fanfic. It's from fanfiction.net. Memories of the Kelpie. It had been a month since I had last seen my dear friend, Thomas Garrison, and it had been a year since our encounter with the dreaded monster of that ghastly wood that lay undisturbed for who knows how long. We were very young on that day, teenagers that were looking for adventure and new places to hang around. When you're a teenager, you always had that sense of wanting your independence from your homestead, from the people who wish to confine you to the olden days' customs and traditions. True, I respected my homeland's traditions, but I also wanted to see other lands, and so did Thomas. Oh, forgive me for not introducing myself. I am John O'Brady, son of Franklin O'Brady II. My family had a well-known history in our little village in Scotland, being that the ancestors of my father and mother's side were descended from proud warriors who had supposedly fought alongside great men of the Highlands like William Wallace. Since my father was determined to see that my future would have a secure and strong life, he had enlisted me into the military academy in the summer months so that I could carry on my family's warrior spirit into the up-and-coming battle. Ah yes, I was drafted in the midst of the Second World War, and I had mixed feelings of honour and dread. Honour for being recognised by my family's bloodline, by the officers who taught me, and dread for knowing I was going up against an army hell-bent on world domination. It was when I was put into the military academy that I encountered Thomas Garrison, a young Irish lad who had recently moved to Scotland after his mother left her husband after he had attacked her in a drunken rage. I felt pity for him and often took time to talk with him when training sessions were done. I saw that the two of us had one thing in common. We both wanted to see new places and escape from the confines of normality. We wanted to see the world beyond the rolling hills and gigantic spread of Loch Ness, and see the ancient wonders of the pyramids of Egypt, to find the hanging gardens of Babylon, and the monolithic statue of Lady Liberty of America. Oh, how we would dream of being in those far places, only to awaken by the horns of the drill sergeants in the midst of sunrise. The day when we were urged to go out in search of adventure occurred when we were at supper, having our daily rations of soup, potatoes and bread. Thomas overheard a conversation from a group of other trainees like ourselves at the other end of the table, talking about fabled legends, and asked if we could listen. I only went along and only listened as we were accepted by the group of boys. One of them brought up the legend that I remembered hearing from my great-grandfather. He told us about a water spirit. Ugh. I swear. Fuck. This is what I edit out. Can you hear it? Wow. Come on. Now, where was I? I have no idea. He told us about a watery spirit called the Kelpie. The Kelpie, according to mythology, is a mythical supernatural being that can turn into either a beautiful maiden or a white horse, for those who happen to see it. And those who happen to see it would be hypnotized by its elegant disguise. The demon would lead the unfortunate victim to either a pond or a loch, and when the person got too close to the water, the Kelpie would transform into a fearsome monster and would drag its victim into their watery grave. I remembered all of those nightmares I had whenever I heard the Kelpie legend, but I saw that Thomas was fascinated by the creature. The narrator said that he had seen the Kelpie once before he was brought here. He was out by himself when he saw a lovely young girl with long blonde hair beckoning him to her. And he went up to her, but suddenly stopped when he saw her skin turn slimy and rubbery like that of a frog, and he ran off, lucky to be alive. I would regret allowing me and Thomas to venture into the group's circle of dark tales that very night. For nearly a week, Thomas had been thinking of sneaking out to find the location of where the Kelpie was located by the narrator from the group, but I kept telling him that it was nothing but a joke and that the boy wanted to frighten us and make us look like prissy little girls. But Thomas was determined to get my approval. Finally, his insistent begging broke down my assertiveness and agreed to go with him. He was happy to see that I was going to join him and said that he had heard there was a location just east of the academy that might be suitable to such a demon such as a Kelpie, and that early on Friday morning we would sneak out and look about. The date of our quest had arrived, but the outside world was bathed in a thick fog after a week of rain and heat. And we managed to get out without being heard, but I couldn't even see my own hands. Thomas held my hands so that we wouldn't be separated and went out. Following the small hints of sunlight, that tried to break through the fog's thick wall of cloudy mist. Despite wearing our boots, Thomas and I could feel our feet impact upon new ground. It felt hard as petrified dirt. We were no longer on the grass fields that inhabited the Academy's area, but we were not but we're in a place where grass was foreign. The fog started to become less dense, and we could make out the shapes of small and medium dead trees, small puddles here and there, and the sound of nearby ravens and low croaks of small toads could be heard. If this wasn't a suitable home for a Kelpie, then I suppose all brown cows would give chocolate milk. Suddenly, Thomas stood still and pointed out. I looked to where he was pointing, and I could see something out there. It was white in colour and had long, lanky legs. The face of this figure was long, but also curved slightly to show a look of feminine quality. Thomas whispered that the thing looked like a horse, and I had to admit he was right. Now I know the legends and myths could overrun the human mind like a large black sheet, making them believe that anything was possible, but even then a sharp blade can break through it. I didn't immediately assume that this was a Kelpie, but assumed that it was an escaped horse that had somehow broken out from a nearby farm. I was the blade, but the unknown and the white horse were the large black sheet. It had wound itself around Thomas while only grasping at my feet. The white horse looked up at us. Its ears perked forward in interest, and it whinnied to us. I could hear Thomas asking if it wanted us to follow, and I answered that it was just being a horse, not really taking notice of our presence. However, Thomas believed that it did want him to show him something, and began walking over to it. As soon as he did, the white horse then turned and walked away, swishing its tail. I called out to Thomas, telling him that we should go back, but he couldn't hear me. Actually, he did hear me, yet he didn't want to follow my request. His eyes were fixed upon the horse, as if the tail's constant swishing hypnotized him. He had no other choice, but had to follow. I remembered that some horses were actually much smarter than others, and that maybe the horse wanted to bring them over to a place where something had occurred, and that its owner might have been harmed. My remembrance and theory was then slowly beginning to fade away, as I could make out an obscure shape on the ground ahead of us. It looked black and murky. I then saw it was a pool, and I hurried over to Thomas and tried to talk to him, when my eyes then caught sight of something that would haunt me to this day. Was it a dream? Was it a mirage? Or did I actually see the white horse stop by the murky shape and extend its front leg? As the leg began to enter the water, the white fur started to rapidly molt away. The white strands detached from the skin. Only the skin was like the skin of a real horse. The skin was black, rubbery and wet. The hoof suddenly started to melt away, and in its place was what appeared to be a mixture of aquatic and reptilian paw with 5-digit, both of them ending in large, sharp claws. The molting of the white fur started to spread even further as the horse, this image that covered the creature that looked like a horse, began its descent into the pool. That's when the long face of it slowly turned back to Thomas and I swear upon this day I thought my own sanity was beginning to take control of my soul. The gentle, beautiful face now changing into a revolting, rubbery, vile thing. Its eyes glowing brilliantly, its ears growing more curved and long like that of horns, and the gaping mouth revealed a set of long canines that looked like the teeth of a snake or an eel. All of my attempts of keeping my own madness intact were snuffed out that moment that Demon Head looked into our eyes, and I cried to Thomas. I was shocked to see that he had begun to reach out to the monster, hardly acknowledging my presence. I wasted no time in grabbing him and pulled him away as the monster's mouth nearly clamped down upon his open palm. I might have broken a trance in some way, for when Thomas was away from the monster, he gasped and shook his head, asked what had happened. I hardly had enough time to tell him when he looked back and saw the thing leave the water and made the most terrible shrieking snarl, its snarl almost like that of a banshee or an enraged cry of a fox. I then told Thomas to run. He had no reason to argue nor ask why, for his reason to join suit was also following right behind us. I could hear the piercing, trilling and hissing of that abomination as it tried to keep up. But neither me or Thomas was going to allow us to slow down and become its next kill. Onward we ran. The fog had then returned as if to aid the Kelpie in catching us. The fog was now much thicker than before, as thick as white paint. Thomas could barely see me through the fog. Onward we ran. The fog had then returned as if to aid the Kelpie in catching us. The fog was now much thicker than before, as thick as white paint. Thomas could barely see me through the fog, so much so that I had to tie him by the hand to keep him close to me. I had no idea how long we ran, nor do I remember the time. My head and my heart were entwined with great fear of the unknown and the fear of the inevitable doom. I was fearing the worst when the fog began to clear and the mist became thinner and thinner. We found enough courage in us to look behind to see if our pursuer was still behind. There was no sign of that blasted monster, nor was there a hint of its devilish sounds. Thomas and I heaved a much-deserved sigh of relief. I could still feel my lungs and hearts aching from our run. I then stated we should return to the academy, and Thomas admitted that I was right and that we should go back. Yet, the minute we moved forward to the direction of the nearby road that led to the academy, we turned to look upon the other side of our path. We were on the edge of a great lake, a loch, and the cool water below seemed to be incredibly still, as green jade or emerald. It was this that made me lose focus of Thomas, that one moment of wonder that had blinded all my thoughts of my dear friend from helping him escape his fate. I can still hear him screaming out his last breath, and still the look on his face when he was taken from the land of the living. I can still remember looking up just in time to see the black, rubbery-skinned demon leaping towards Thomas, its mouth wide open to reveal its ragged teeth as it snapped on Thomas's neck. I can still see them in my mind, see them falling into the lake below, falling into the dark abyss to never see the light of day. That was what happened on that day, the day when my friend was taken away from me. It was a great challenge for me to explain to the officers of the academy what had happened without making them think I had gone mad. I had to tell a much different tale than the one I am telling now, one that had no Kelpie. I managed to stay within the academy and had gone on to fight in the war and claim victory. But in my heart, I can still recollect the fateful and nightmarish event that had plagued my dreams for all of my life. I am an old man now, but I am an old man who is now hearing the call of death. I am in my bed as of tonight, and as I lay breathing my last breaths, I know I can hear the cries of that monster from so long ago. I can hear the snarl of the beast coming closer and closer to me as I lay motionless. I can now see the soulless eyes of the Kelpie as it stirs into my eyes, its mouth open, its teeth are very, very sharp and red.